All right, here we are. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate everyone being here. We're still in the malaise of winter. It will be nice to have a pop of Vignelli read in your day, which is a feature of this class. So super happy to have everybody here. Students have been working hard all semester. They've done the research, they've identified pain points, they've creatively innovated on solutions, and they're going to walk you through the end-to-end vision for what an ideal experience might be for connecting more with our audiences that access the Vignelli Center. So the teams are going to come up one at a time. We'll have about 20 minutes per. We'll have some time for feedback. And I want to give a special thanks to faculty and staff in the room today who have supported the class. Anybody that's on the Zoom, also very much appreciate the support to be able to make this class come to life. So we have in front of you all a evaluation form, and I also have in a digital format, which I can fire off to you immediately following, but I thought it would be easier for you to, bring pen and paper into this equation. All right, so we're going to get started. The teams are going to go in numerical order, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to invite team 1 up to take the stage and share with you their prototype. There. Okay, so just reshare when you're ready to go.
To the Zoom?
To the Zoom, please. Okay. To share the Figma app. The Zoom.
Hello, we're team 1, aka team design is 1. And gotcha. So here's a little outline of the points that we're going to be hitting today.
So for our team, I am Courtney. I am a project manager.
I'm Kath. I'm the research lead. Our teammate Trinity couldn't make it.
She was our curation lead, and I am Emmett, the visual design lead.
I'm Max. I was the UX.
So our objective here is to design the user experience of the future by bringing the museum collection to life beyond the walls of its physical location. In this case, the Vignelli archives at RIT. And our user base is more of the general user. These are the people that we're going to be designing for, and we specifically focused on design professionals or people in the design space. We interviewed Ryan Melody, Mike Apping, Sana Sharma, Kim Holmes, and Tim Bruce, and they all have varying levels of knowledge about the Vignellis. We wanted to kind of hit those different experience levels. So some pain points that they experienced when we showed them the Google Arts and Culture page, which was the precedent, was that they found it had poor UX, which with unclear navigation, low accessibility, and disappearing elements, whenever they would try to circle back to the main page for the Vignelli archives, they would end up at the main page for Google Arts and Culture in general, and they felt kind of discouraged from that lack of cyclical navigation. The existing Google Arts and Culture framework inhibited ideal interaction, navigation, and search. They found that some tabs were disappearing, some things weren't loading properly. And the information structure led to disinterest. One thing we ran into was that they were very interested by the stories tab, but they felt like the way that the Google Arts and Culture page presented stories meant that they didn't get as much information and story as they wanted.
So to dive into our persona is Monica. She's an art director living in New York City. She doesn't know much about the Vignellis, but she does remember some slight recollections of like things that they've done, some things that they might have worked on, and just the Vignelli name in general. So she starts her journey scrolling on Instagram one day, and on her feed, she discovers an account called Brand New, and she notices that there's a New York City subway system map She also notices that it has been refreshed and redone, and some of the design elements have been drawn from the Vignellis themselves. She does a basic Google search after this and then wants to pull up the history of the Vignellis and the original Vignelli map. And she wants to dive into more of their history as well as some other things she might have heard from when she was in art school.
So by seeing this post on Instagram, just running into it by chance, she has been given an objective. And she has gone to the new Vignelli archive site to figure it out. So when Monica loads up the site, she sees a few different headers and tabs and scrolls through them to figure out what she's looking at and get her bearings. She goes down to explore the home page and understand more about the site and what she's looking at and how she can find the information she wants to about the New York City subway map. She sees some familiar projects as well as some unfamiliar faces. Sees that there's an artifacts tab and also how to use the filters to get the desired outcome. She decides to go back up and click on the projects. Loading up the projects page, she sees a whole host of different projects and she's impressed by the breadth of different brands and different companies and different things that were worked on by the Vignellis, and hangs out on this page to see if she can spot the subway map. She sees it right there and then starts to go and look for this page to see if she can find some more information. Finds it and clicks on it. Monica is greeted with a whole bunch of extra information, and she is impressed with the different concept work that she did not know existed, but is inspired by the depth of this project, different parts that went into it. She didn't realize that it was only from 1972 to 1979 that this map existed, and is impressed that it has retained so much cultural impact after all that time, leading to this very week. Seeing all of the different artifacts, ends up zeroing in on the subway map. She's keeping on digging for additional information. Right now, everything she's seen is checking. She's checking against her knowledge as a New York City designer. You find some specific primary source quotes about the project, as well as some similar examples of other artifacts related to the map. You did not know that they worked on sketches for the inside of the cars. But at the end, she feels like she has completed this objective that she initially set out to do upon her Google search, and now is sort of scrolling around and seeing what else.
She scrolls down, she notices that there is a quote generator. This gives quotes that were said by either Mossimo or Ellie. She sees one that says, "I am the engine, Layla is the brakes." She thinks it's really interesting how they lived and worked together at such a high level. So she wants to learn more. This is her new objective, learn more about Layla Vignelli's legacy. So she clicks on the quote attribution. This takes her to the people page, where she gets to learn more about their relationship and their work. Here, there's a card focus all about Layla. She clicks. And she's taken to a page that explains more about Layla's work and her life. She can see projects that Layla worked on, her biography. even more associated art. From here, she wants to learn more about the center. And so she goes to the About page. Here we talk more about the Vignelli Center, and Monica is able to learn all about it. She is able to see a timeline of the creation center, as well as when Layla and Massimo decided to donate their archives, and also why it's in Rochester, New York. She's able to learn the vision, the mission, and the goals of it. From here, she feels sufficiently learned about Layla Vignelli's legacy. Objective complete.
Now, Monica feels that she has gone on a little bit of a tangent, but she still wants to know more about how she can stay updated on Vignelli news and stories now that she's discovered this wealth of information, because she enjoys social media and seeing things come across her feed. So she wants to stay tapped in on that and see what's going on. And to do that, now that she's down on the footer, she goes to the Connect page. And on the Connect page, she learns that there are all sorts of different events that are for people in person, as well as all sorts of different socials that the Vignelli Center hosts and videos that you can see, even if you're not in town. She decides to click on the Instagram following them, because she is an Instagram girl, and follows them, sees that 70 of her friends are, so she was a little bit late to the game, but ends up following them all the same, enjoying the Vignelli ecosystem. So that objective. So to sum it up, Monica's journey taught us that creating these consistent objectives, especially for general users who may feel that they don't have a direct purpose with the site, logical navigation once they get there, robust information disclosed in a progressive manner, and that little injection of personality and storytelling can help the Vignelli Center generate this exploration, retain users, facilitate interest from them, and boost their public profile. Thank you.
To open it up, feedback, reaction, thoughts.
I can start. I thought that was fantastic.
you.
Great job. And really, for starters, just, it seems like the barrier to entry, that the aesthetic is right. And I feel that you've done your due diligence, and many of the aspects of the aesthetic vision feel right on. The sort of extra flourish with a reference to the subway diagram, the navigational kind of articulation, lovely gesture. I mean, there are so many wonderful things about the way in which you've sort of made this a contemporary vehicle. We often, as I noted before, struggle with the datedness of the RIT, sort of package site that we have to use. I think that overall, the way that you've mapped a contemporary user's workflow feels like the kind of feedback we often get. This is stodgy. This is not the way I navigate a website. So I just think from 30,000 feet, you're on the right track, and an appropriate sort of track at that. There are so many things that I like. I'll just point out a few of them. The Connect piece, while perhaps in my generation, sort of going to the Instagram and clicking on it is enough, you manage that in a much more engaging way by sort of taking your general use visitor on an appropriate journey that leads to that Connect area. I think you give really great sort of personalized experience channels for folks to get through that funnel to where they want to be to stay in touch or to stay updated. I'm looking at all this content, which we know to be our content, and I'm thinking, wow, I like this so much more now. It's so much more engaging to get to that content in this way. So like you've done your job in that respect. The only thing I thought might be useful to consider, and sort of a question, sort of an observation, is like, there are people that are out there that are inspired by the Vignellis. They're doing things in the Vignelli's lineage. There are other, ways maybe to connect, and I just sort of wonder, did you think about that, or was it too much to consider, or did you have any ideas? Like, let's say, there's this group out there that made an interactive subway map for the MTA. Like, is there a way to get to that? Maybe I missed it, or like, have you thought about that sort of Vignelli legacy stuff?
We have, like, for each project page and each artifact, we have like the outcome section, and
Right.
before we had like merchandise and like imagery, but now we put links to, whether it's like museum exhibitions or, news articles, like we linked the article to the recent, like changes that were inspired. So we kind of tried to make it more interactive instead of just pictures of the outcomes.
Right. Well, I think that's great. That's a great start.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about that idea of inspired by Vignelli. Like, we've now had 15 generations, you could say, of students come through the center, and many of them are leaders in their field now. And in talking to them, they'll all tell you anecdotally that Vignelli Center played a role in getting them there. So I guess it's a question of maybe thinking about those evolving legacies and so forth. So maybe that's something more to think about. But anyway, I'll stop there. I think it was great.
That's
Thanks.
Sounds like that might be a whole nother class.
Right.
You're just doing it.
New project. Sorry, I'm getting too excited.
It's okay. Any
Oh,
other
I
comments?
guess I opened my mouth. so-
Well,
Um, I do, I think you did a great job. I will reiterate that. And it looked great. And I love to see you bringing things together. I know all too well the limitations of Google Arts. So I love to hear that reiterated. And I know it's frustrating for a user, but it's like a half step in the right direction from most databases that libraries and archives. I don't know if you looked at any others, but they're even worse. They're hard to look at. But like the way you're bringing things together, like right, which is right, of course, an archive having the context and those things together. So being able to see like, the map and then see sketches and other contexts, right? Great, love that. I don't know, I had another comment. But I was thinking about, right, like this is a great platform to just sort of give people a taste, but could the whole collection, how would the whole collection? I mean, not that you know what the whole collection is, I don't even know what the whole collection is.
Like,
Like,
is
there's
it scale?
750,000 objects, so could you treat every project this way? No, obviously it's the highlights, but I think that's great. You can draw people in. I don't know how that would lead people. I mean, someday in the future, when I have a team of people that we digitize more of the collection, how that would interact, but. Yeah, no.
Great job. I think it turned out beautifully in thinking about where you were when we came last time and how much it's evolved. What I particularly liked, kind of a two-pronged approach for comments that I'll make. Love the user journey. Like, I loved hearing about Monica and her, journey through everything and kind of why she wanted to see things and how she started out before she even knew this site existed and how it, led her there and then led her through everything and took her to the end. It's like, I feel like it's like a to be continued, like, where is she going next? So, but I thought that was great. Just the storytelling of it, I thought was really well done.
I thought you had a really good explanation of like the pain points, so why you did touch on what you did, starting back to your research and your, talking with people and the pain points they had and carrying it all the way through. I thought it was really easy to follow. Again, the comment I think Josh made of having those subway map lines at the start, kind of leading you through that, I thought was great. I really liked, and this is just your presentation, it wasn't even the site, but how you had the objectives. And like, for me, viewing this too, being able to see like, checking those things off, I thought was really well done. Like, for me, it was able, like, maybe that's how my brain works too, but to be able to see like, yeah, she did these things and it totally made sense. I don't have anything like negative. I thought you did a really good job. So, yeah, nice.
I would add, so hi, nice to meet you all. I know Max, but I don't know the others. I am Dr. Decker. I direct the Museum Studies program and I collaborate with the Vignelli Center for Design Studies. I agree. I think it was wonderfully presented. I thought it was very easy to follow. Building on Jennifer's comment, I was wondering about the scalability of like what would happen if you dumped a bunch more objects into the 1960s or 70s. And then I was thinking, well, maybe that doesn't need to happen because that might be overwhelming for the user. So then I was trying to think of equivalencies, and the presentation of the objects or the projects in the decades kind of reminds me of a library interface where you have like what's on the shelf nearby. So if you look up something in the Albert catalog, not Summon because Summon is the devil, but if you go to the library catalog and find a book, it'll say what's near it on the shelf, because like back in the day, you would go and browse the shelf. So I think that this kind of touches on that little element of browsability and kind of connecting with some other things without being overwhelmed with the 300,000 items. So I really appreciated that part. I thought that was really well done. I love the quote generator. I think that's hilarious, but it's also very thoughtful because it can lead someone down a path. There's cautionary notes in my brain, just, in terms of like, how do we remove bias or how do we do all these other things, but that's not your problem. That's an implementation problem. But I thought that was beautiful and it helped to connect people to a different form of primary source, which is language and documentation, and that everything at the Vignelli Center in some way, shape, or form has, as beautiful as it is visually, it has some textual support to it, which makes it so unique and much more museum-like. So yeah, well done. I really enjoyed it.
Vignelli's were also very quotable.
Yeah,
And we have-
Exactly. You have a lot of sound bites that could go in there, right?
cool.
I think everybody in this class is.
Yeah, there's a lot of material to work with for sure. Now, y'all have heard a lot from me throughout the semester, so I'll keep my comments brief so we can keep going. But I want to just applaud this group. You have come such a long way from the beginning of the semester to this final output. The storytelling is really strong. The prototype was really strong. I love that you were able to find ways to create a system in your design, but also find ways to sort of break it and create a little bit of surprise and delight along the way. I mean, for me, it meets a lot of the objectives of this user group. And you did a good job staying on target of that particular user, being mindful of what their needs were. That really comes through in this playback. So job well done. And it's back to the beginning screen, and I'm going to take a picture of you in front of your, it's for you, it's for your portfolios. Go back to the green one and get in front.
I think we should do the.
Yeah, right there. Sure. Where any screen.
So you take us to our website.
Pick a page.
Sure.
2 and 2 and 2.
This will be next to our website.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Ding. Got it. Okay. All right. I can sleep. That's okay. Team 2, come on up.
Great.
One second. Maybe just 1 second.
I'm going up with. Or playing video or going on the slide. We just thought about it. These things. Or like. I think it's.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah,
But-
they can do that.
Other than that, I'll leave it to you. In case there's any issue.
Okay, thank you. Will do. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks for you.
Good job, guys. I'm sorry.
Just when I
Slide to slide, is that, just right?
I don't think
No, we're also, it's like, it's very, it's so.
Monica being like every other good student,
Monica.
ignore her flag.
It's so Monica.
Oh.
What?
Hanging in there.
Okay.
Yeah, did you
Yeah.
guys
Did
see
she go?
the slide?
Oh, thank you,
Yeah, a lot of work.
Well, but it's like Monica, it's so much.
It's like, it was like better.
Sign professional New York City, people are always trying to get rid of it.
That's a day, 8:55, that's.
But she's
Oh,
Alright.
Yeah.
brutal.
We're amazing.
It's true. Yeah.
Right, hi everyone, welcome to our final playback for our project with the research platform. Maybe it wasn't. There we go. Okay, so we're team 2, and I'm Olivia, the visual design lead.
I'm Gwen, research lead.
I'm Aris, the UX design lead.
I'm Kennedy. I'm project
So for today, we're going to be going through a quick introduction or reintroduction. You have seen this already, or parts of it. We're going to be hitting our as-is scenario, which is basically what's going on currently with the Vignelli archive online. And then we're going to go to our to-be scenario, which is our proposed solution. And then finally, to wrap up, just some value and impact of our product. And we're going to be walking you through that today. So just to touch on our audience, give a refresher. We interviewed 5 people, and of those people, there were 2 industrial design professors, 1 product designer, 1 architect, and 1 pastor. And even though they all came from very diverse backgrounds, we identified some similarities that they had in their needs and prioritizations. So they prioritized global access and design philosophy preservation, and they needed somewhere that they can find a community space with educational uses, integration into their workflow as researchers and professionals, and they needed an ability to save and organize their materials.
So now we're going to introduce to you Corinne. Corinne is someone who represents the commonalities of our users that we encountered in our research, and she will help walk us through what our users experience as they do their own research. So Corinne is a project manager at a leading industrial design agency. Her team is currently developing a sleek and modern interlocking dish rosette, and right now she is leading the research phase. And as a project lead, her goals are to gather relevant and high quality references, organize and save her findings for future use, and share her research not only with her team, but with her stakeholders as well. And Corinne and her team already admire the work of Massimo and Vignelli, so they already are aware of their minimalist and universal approach to design. So they want to dig deeper into their past projects for inspiration and to help guide their team's direction. Right now, like any other researcher, Corinne begins with the Google search. She starts by inputting Vignelli archive, and she is prompted with a plethora of links to choose from and is unsure where to begin. So she then decides to narrow her search and adds in Vignelli cookware archive. This comes up with a whole different set of links that are completely different from the previous set of links that she saw before. And feeling a bit overwhelmed with the variety of resources available, she just decides to start clicking into the sites. And with that, she starts with the Vignelli, the RIT Vignelli site, and she learns that this is not something that is for a research site that provides information on the Vignelli Center at RIT. But then she clicks into the Google Arts and Culture page and starts exploring the features there. She's finding as she's exploring the site that the filters aren't exactly strong enough. They're not helping her find the content that she's looking for. The timeline feature
doesn't work properly, so it doesn't sort by date. The product images can only be viewed one at a time, and with them not being organized, she's finding herself constantly going back and forth between images and getting lost frequently. And with the inability to save anything, she's constantly losing her references and having a hard time sharing it with her team. So she decides to jump over to the Vignelli Tumblr page, and she finds that it's slightly more organized, and she's having a bit of an easier time navigating the site and finding information that she needs. However, there is no real filter capability, so she is still finding herself scrolling through the site looking for the content that she needs, which is extending her research time. So she's left feeling a bit overwhelmed and frustrated after navigating all of these platforms with little success. Despite the content on these sites being really strong, their inconsistent UI or user interface, their weak filter and search options, and no efficient way to truly personalize and save her progress are limiting her research and preventing her from reaching her goals.
But then Corinne meets V for Vision. So first she lands on the homepage. It has 3 different sections that she is about to explore: the collection, interactive timeline, and the Vignelli canon. She wants to click around and see what the site has to offer first before delving deep into specifics for her project. She also checks out the canon and realizes a lot here, so I'm definitely going to read more into this later. But she selects a random chapter and sees that there's a lot of chapters also available for her to browse. But she goes into the collection page because she's looking for ditcher information, and she sees that there's a toolbar at the top. So using that, she searches through the discipline, which is industrial design, and then she looks further and finds that there's a dishware button that she clicks on, filters it down, just a few things. She's very impressed with how efficient her search was, but she wants to dig deeper.
So with just 2 clicks, Corinne is able to access the content that she's looking for. So she clicks into the first product that she finds. So this first product is the Hello Max mug. And upon entrance to the product page, she notices that there's some quick facts available for her. And as she's as she scrolls down, she's the next option that she has is to interact with this 3D mug. She doesn't have a mug available to her in person, so she is able to interact with it in 3D, VR, virtual reality, and augmented reality to get a deeper understanding of its form and materiality without actually having the product in person. As she scrolls further, she is able to look through a gallery of photos and videos to help her collect any information or products that that might interest her. Below that, there is Vignelli commentary. This lets her see the thought processes that the Vignellis used or had mentioned for this product. This helps her just get a better understanding of the Vignelli's ideas. A brief introduction of the client, Hello Incorporated. This is available, so this might inspire Corinne to further explore Hello as well as the Vignellis. So additional information is available. And then at the end, she is prompted to potentially take a look at similar products. This will help, increase her speed in research by utilizing and prompting similar products. But for now, she wants to come back up and save an image that caught her eye earlier. So she goes and clicks through that and then saves it. She needs to quickly create an account. But with this one click, she's logged in and ready to go, and the image is already saved to her profile. With such success on these pages, now she's wondering where else she can use these features in her website.
Okay, so in order to do that, she goes back to the home page, and then she goes to the timeline section. She tries to use a filter to find the dishware that Vignelli made during his career. After filtering, she clearly finds all the dishware designs on the timeline and arranged by every decade. She checked everything on that side. Then she chose and saved two of her favorite designs. The first one, next one, and click on save. So after that, Corinne feels inspired by her deep dive to find the design ethos that influence the items she has saved. So she continued to explore the last section of the page, which is the finale canon. So she went through the table of contents and she clicked on the chapter that interested her. She goes in there and check on different chapters and eventually ended up in timelessness chapter because she finds some idea that she could apply to her design. So she used a highlight feature from the toolbar and saved the quotes so she can show it to the stakeholder in her report later. And after completing all her goals, she now wants to go to a profile page to organize everything. After enter the page, she sees the organize button in the top right, and she selects two files she wants to categorize and name the new file the Heller Diningware. Then she wants to share this file to her coworker by clicking the button on the page, which helps her create a share link there. And finally, she wants to download these images for her presentation. So she clicks on the button and selects the file type, and the page packages all the images for her and saves them to her computer automatically. After all this, Corinne feels very satisfied and would like to return to our website for any future project research.
So the value and impact of urban knowledge. There's key features of our platform. The first being there's 3 unique views. So this was the collection, timeline, and the canon. These were different ways to really organize and personalize any sort of research process and make it personal to a researcher or professional. It's a very personal thing. So being able to go in and make it special to you and work in a way that fits in with your existing flow is something that we really want to emphasize and stress through our prototype. There's also the profile, which allows you to save everything that you search for in one place, and it gives you the ability to return to that same starting place in the future, which encourages people to come back and interact with the artifacts further. And then finally, there's the saving and sharing and also the organizing. This is great for working with other people or for teaching, if you're doing whatever you need to do with artifacts and information. It's all in one place and it makes it really simple. Instead of pulling it from different places, kind of the hub of everything. And connecting back to the actual physical center, the platform offers a great opportunity to build SEO or search engine optimization. So this would increase the rank in a Google search. So people are more likely to click on this. And it's under the Vignelli Center's roof. So there's a lot of great resources available, but having it all under control by the archivists and the directors of the center is a great feature. Especially if it builds engagement, credibility, and awareness, and there's more people interested in the center, they're more likely to want to learn more, potentially visit in the future, or request specific information, materials, etc. And also on that note, it's easy to track analytics and data, who's doing what with artifacts and the information, if people are making accounts, and it's under the watchful eye of the Vignelli Center. This definitely helps with things like copyright and also making sure that archival information is protected and not being printed on t-shirts or anything like that. And finally, more engagement is more funding. And it also is the opportunity to support the Vignelli mission. So a lot of researchers and professionals can really push all the Vignelli things into the future, products, into educational spaces. And thank you. Any questions?
Back thoughts?
Is it true that more engagement equals more funding?
That's true, you're hired.
I'm good.
Okay.
Got something to say?
Well,
I
I always have something to
I
say.
can.
Great job. And I should say this probably on the group too, just great teamwork. That's transparent presentation, working together. I'm sure there were fist fights and all those things in the background, but you guys present a great, unit. I think overall, awesome work. I really appreciate your kind of landing in the in the user group that you are looking at, and really, also kind of laying out what the objectives were and showing that you answered them. It's a great way of sort of clarifying that for your audience, and taking us on an authentic kind of journey through the user space. There are a couple things that I'll point out because there's so much to talk about. And this might feel small to you, but the canon where you pulled that in, you sort of, I think, we're kind of reconstructing it within your web universe here. Sorry for the lack of good terminology. But you reconstructed it in such a way that it was more, it looked like you were suggesting it's more interactive, more searchable, and so on. And while that might, to some eyes, feel blasphemous, it really, it suggested a very contemporary way of accessing the content. And I always say the Vignelli Center is not a temple to worship Vignelli's in, it's a place of discourse. So that pokes at that idea of saying, well, how do we look at that content and make it more accessible to current generations? So there's something about how you touched on that made me think, wow, this is a really great way of bringing the content to our attention and making it more serviceable. And that, I think, is at the core of what you're trying to do generally. So I really, really like that. I also thought the virtual Vignelli piece was super cool. And I know that it's just a kind of a quick prototype, but the idea of having more things like that is something we talked about. And, of course, we'd love to have people 3D scanning stuff and making models that we can interact with, put on the Vignelli clothes and walk down the hall. And, but I think that you presented that opportunity really there. So I thought that was awesome. Feedback or constructive criticism. One, love the V for Vignelli. Totally love that. I think you could do something more impactful with, because you sort of have V for Vignelli and it's Helvetica and all that, but like there's something more in there. I don't know what it is. If you listen to Michael Beirut, famous graphic designer who worked at Vignelli's, talking about how Massimo in particular would come around and critique the work in the studio. Said, well, Massimo would come over and he'd look at, my work and he'd say, oh, that's perfectly great. It answers all the questions. It's serviceable. It's great, clear, good design. What if you did this? Then you did that, then you made it bigger like this. Then you'd say, well, then it was transcendent, And so I feel like that the brand, if you will, the entry point, there could be a whole exercise in making that more powerful. And I don't have the answer for you, but I just think that like there's room for growth there because it's such a great idea for Vignelli. So I'm not sure what graphically that would look like, but that's sort of just a constructive criticism for you to think about. The other thing was we're not in the business of selling Vignelli products, but we do provide a conduit to the shop, and some of that helps us. Some of the sales help us. So it occurred to me that when you were playing in that 3D space, like I don't have access to a Vignelli mug, but I want to strap on it and kind of feel it. Like maybe there's a place in there to shop or to explain that if you do shop, you're helping the center to move forward. So that's another sort of, I don't know if you thought about that. Those are my observations. I'll stop at that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I go next, it's funny when you said about the V for Vignelli. My first thing was that would make the coolest motion graphic. I was just like, I can see that, me in motion. So I was like, that could be really cool. Again, I thought you had really good examples, especially about pain points, talking about that. And I guess I kind of fall into this professional designer researcher persona. So I was really looking at it kind of as the user. I thought it was great. Again, I think the progress from where you were before to what you are now, like night and day, I could see myself using this and it's so much easier and just a little like simple things, but I know they're not simple in the development, but being able to save images as a researcher and go back to that because I'm a hot mess. I'm one of those, I download things and I bookmark things and I'm going to know where all this is and then I don't. So having everything in one place where I can organize it, and then also I can go back and delete it if I don't need it anymore. And so those are for me, that was really appealing, something that I would definitely use. The addition of the canon was the other thing because it's such an integral part of the Vignelli legacy. And again, doing research or preparing for a class, having it all in one place that I could just go instead of having to go look somewhere else and, go all over it because I'm not going to do that. So having it all right there, I thought was really important. Again, just making it easy for a researcher to go in and find what they need, especially a designer too, looking for that inspiration, something they need to show their team, whatever, or someone that doesn't know what they're looking for. If I'm working on a project, I need something to inspire me. I don't want to go to Pinterest. I'm not going to use AI, but I respect the Vignellis. So maybe I would go there and be like, what can I look? Let me look at their process work. Let me look at their sketches. Let me look. So I felt like it just gave me another more legitimate research and inspiration tool. So, and I loved the 3D AR VR part. I thought that was great. So again, great work. Oh, and I love the analytics. I know that would be things the powers that be here would like, but what a great tool as a behind the scenes to know what are people looking at, what are they interested in, what are they not looking at. I just thought that was really good for statistical information.
I was just gonna, yes, everything everyone's saying, I was just thinking, when we were just talking about the canon. Sorry, my brain is really fried right now, but, the canon, is there any way to connect the canon to the artifact? Because, you can collect the artifact images, but the canon also, I don't know, it's just, sorry, it's just another idea that is going around, if it was gonna be interactive.
I definitely
Thank you,
think all
Keeper.
everything, all the features that we want to have included on the site would have some potential to be saved. The profile, so if it is interactive, or if you wanted, the quote we had showed the example of, that would also be available. So I think that would be.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I guess I was thinking, the person is reading the canon and they come across something that you link back to the collection, like if it shows a picture of the dishware, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right, because then that would be another avenue of browsing. But
Yes, we did have a discussion about that.
I
That is
know,
one of our
it's like
ideas.
it's a whole nother thing, believe me. But about the interaction, talking about the interaction. The canon designed by Brunelli, I think is what he's getting at. So when you take it out of its graphic design and, but I think it's different. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not a designer, but others might. But I think it's interesting to have it interactive. Also, maybe I'll come back.
I liked everything as well. Specifically the AR/VR I thought was interesting and unique, and I was just trying to think of how usable that would be. But I think it could work for something like a mug or something that's domestic or something that's a personal object. I think that was really well done. I like the saving feature and the exporting feature I thought was really good because that would help people to retain authenticity of that image rather than doing the random search. So I think that really kind of does circle back to one of your first slides where you had that sort of portmanteau of links. It was kind of hard, like we all faced. I think too, there were small things like the saving through the Google login. That just makes it so much easier. So that little detail, although it's a little detail, would really convince someone to use the site because it's like, okay, it's all there. I don't need anything else. So I did really like that. There was a little typo on slide 17. So just check your spelling of time and Smith's various places. But I think it was really well done. It was really, it's a great tool for definitely for researchers, but I think the public too. I think they would be drawn to.
Thank you, team. You've done a really great job. I really appreciate in this playback in particular how you were able to hit the emotional highlights of the journey from end to end. Like I really got a chance to like empathize with Corinne, to understand her what she's trying to do, how your design is satisfying those needs. I think, you know, this particular project highlights, again, the really great depth of bringing the detail of the process work from the collection into the experience. And that, for me personally, really exciting. Like, I love that. I'm like, ooh, I get to see more. I get to see more layers to this, you know, thing that we usually only see that finished final artifact. And that part, I think, again, comes back to this particular user need, right? Like they're looking for not just the finished product, but they're looking for how did we get here? And what a great thing that we have, you know, to be able to surface those details. So really cool. Great work. Okay. All right.
We did our team.
Showing us again.
Yeah. Should we do our peace sign?
Oh, I think we should.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
you
wanna
do.
do it?
Okay, come on, team two. 1, 2, 3.
And it's speaking.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. All right, team 3, please take the stage. Full screen.
Yeah, that's what I'm forgetting. Sorry.
There you go. Thank you, Brett. No problem. All right, take it away, team 3.
Welcome to our team 3. This is our. So I am Riley. I'm the curation lead and project manager.
I'm Derek, I'm the research lead.
I'm Katie, I'm the UX design lead. I'm Amelia, I'm the visual design lead.
And I'm Jason, I was the new media design lead.
So a little bit of an agenda for today. We're going to start with our kind of goal for this project, our guiding mission statement, get into our user focus, who we spoke to, what we learned from them, and 2 user journeys of a professor and student in that professor's class, and then some kind of bigger outcome thoughts reflecting on the project. So our project goal, we tried to keep this as straightforward as possible. It's something they're going to be returning from this project. We will design a digital experience that supports professors and their students as they conduct research, explore the collection, and read about Yale's legacy of design. So a reliable resource that you can keep coming back to provide to you. So I spoke to Josh and Kelly, Javier who's a former RIT professor. And so from them, we learned some kind of pain points, specifically about difficulty with searching and filtering the Google Arts and Culture site. Stories, like distinct narratives, were difficult to find and then also difficult to share with your students. And live demonstrations with
arts and culture site near impossible, I guess is a way to put it. And there wasn't really a unified visual identity that they would be able to share with students. So the two kind of categories of needs that we identified for research and course development for specifically for educators and for students and educators being able to search and narrow the focus of what they were looking for and find exactly what they want. And the other category of needs is from the collection.
And now we're gonna get into our user journeys. Our first user is Professor Frank Briggs. He's a museum studies professor at RIT. He's teaching an exhibition design class and is assigning students their first project, which asks them to design an exhibition using items from the Vignelli Center's collection. He needs to share an example of what their objects lists could look like and find stories to share with them so they can learn about the Vignelli design plans. Frank begins by searching the web for Vignelli Center to find the site. He sees that he stayed logged in last session when he previously used it. He navigates to collection, search for specific objects. Frank uses the search filters to limit the search results and find what he's looking for faster. He can search by discipline, on display, designer, time, and client to find exactly what he's looking for and discover what's on display. As he finds objects, he enters their object pages to learn more and chooses to create a new arrangement from them. This allows him to save the objects as he finds them so that he can look at them later and also arrange them and present them to his students. As Frank explores the archives collection, he adds more objects to his arrangement. He focuses on finding objects that connect visually or conceptually and uses the related objects listed on the pages to explore more in depth.
Next, Frank goes to his arrangements and sees a new arrangement that he created while saving the objects. Additionally, he also notices that he's able to create new arrangements for his page with the plus icons. Now he enters the arrangement he recently made, and here he's able to rearrange the objects, as well as add title and text for his students. Now he knows that he needs to provide some more context for his students about the Vignellis and their work. So from here, he navigates to the stories page. And here he sees a list of different stories, case studies relating to different works that the Vignellis have done in the past. So from here, he clicks on a specific story and is able to look through it more in depth. Provides a brief header image, title, and an overview of the case study and event. And as you can see here, he's able to listen to a short audio transcript about the event as well. And he also notices that he can save or view the space in AR, which he makes note of and will show later to his students. And then finally, he notices the timeline page at the top. And from here, he's able to scroll through the timeline of events of all the different works that the Vignellis have done in a chronological order. And each of these events, he's able to click on it and read more about it in depth.
To hone their ideas, Frank asks his students to browse this and then create a discussion post about the case study, learning takeaways.
So did Frank achieve his goals? I would say yes. Using the Vignelli Center site, he's prepped for his presentation and is able to show resources to his students. Now he's very confident he'll be able to provide good concepts to this class using the website. He also knows that students will be able to navigate the website and find what they're looking for.
So this is Claire. Claire is a graphic designer student in Professor Briggs' class. She needs to look through what Professor Briggs shared and start a discussion post assignment. After that, she'll navigate the site on her own and look to discover more objects and more from the Vignelli Center. Claire begins by clicking the link that Professor Briggs sent through My Courses. She reads the story, listens to the audio, and uses the subtitles to read along. After reading the Knoll case, she feels invigorated by the details about the Vignelli's product design work and decides to find out more by looking for objects in the collection page. Claire decides to explore the object page that she finds. While scrolling through the information on the page, she sees something about an AR view. She scans the QR code with her phone to view an AR, and she's able to rotate a 3D scan of the object into actual scale. So she was instantly inspired by the stacking animation that you guys saw during our mid-playback review earlier in the semester, and makes a note to use it during her exhibit. Curious to see more, she explores additional Heller products and taps on the Vignelli rocker chair. So here you can see a UI that's a little bit more fleshed out than the original. She has to grant access to use her camera for the AR. And she's brought down to this. She clicks the eye in the top left to bring an information screen where it comes with the brand name, the artifact, and what you can do in this experience. After clicking the eye again to close the information, she resets and places down an environment. She pinches to scale it, and she knows that she can swipe to rotate it already. And on this experience, she can actually tap to start an animation, which you will see shortly. As you can see, we have branding. It was a little bit more simpler on this side and aligns more with our website. And from there, you can also see the material is actually closer to the actual artifact than the mugs were in the mid-playback.
At the bottom of the object page, Claire notices a few links to the Vignelli's social media sites. She feels curious about them, so she decides to take a quick look at their Instagram page. While scrolling on the center's Instagram page, one of the posts catches her eye, and upon further inspection, she reads about it and she learns that it was made using the arrangements feature on the website. The post reminds Claire that she should probably return to the website and finish her discussion post. So she clicks the link in the bio of the center's Instagram to get back to that. Happy with her research so far, she decides to give the Explore page a try. She decides to use the randomize feature to give her a new layout of objects, and she can mouse over them and see a quick description, and she can click on any of them to go to their individual object page. Satisfied with her research and the object that she's gathered, Claire returns to the My Courses page to complete her discussion posts. Did Claire achieve her goals? In her discussion posts, Claire includes a few sentences about her exploration on the website and how it informed her design process. Professor Briggs is very impressed with her research and how thorough it was. And after her positive experience, she's very excited to go back and use the Vignelli website to continue creating layouts and continue the process, to continue the project that Professor Briggs is doing.
We've seen how students and professors can have their met, but how are we meeting the goals of the Vignelli Center? So professors and students now have greater ability to conduct research. They can incorporate these things into their classes, kind of just pick them up and drop them into their lesson plans much easier. Easier digital access in this way also means that the daily workload of Josh and Jennifer is greatly reduced. It involves people asking questions about how does this work? How do I do this? And they can rest assured that their main audience of students and professors and researchers have a kind of fulfilling experience. And so the detailed narratives and the integrated media of different forms on the site help spread more knowledge about science beyond our
Thoughts, feedback?
Reduction in workload.
Yeah, right.
This is a very interesting scenario for me because I don't know if there are faculty students that use our collections like this, but I would love for this to be the scenario to make their own assignments out of our collections, but maybe if they do it. Generally, it's bring their class to me and I get anyone, but not virtually, but in person.
Could you see a relationship between the digital experience though and the in person? If
No, I
this
think
were-
this could be really cool. I
Yeah.
just don't. I don't know if there are two faculty here. Maybe more involved than others, but no, I think it's great. I think you did a great job. I think this would be really fantastic that you're thinking about how faculty could then hand it off to a student and how they can both interact in this and like explore the collection and stuff.
But writing these narratives, the Professor one at least was a little inspired by a class I'm taking right now.
Oh, okay.
That's asking us to make an exhibit layout from things in the RD archives.
Okay.
And I was kind of thinking if there was a tool like this, in that kind of way, that would be very helpful for me.
In this case, you are the user.
Great.
I mean, I think going off that, like, so I would love something like that, like if, because I'm like, my students know how I am too. Like, I love to read. I love to give them reading resources and articles and so, you know, posting them in my courses and it's a link and then you go back a year later and the link doesn't work and whatever, but like having a whole repository that I could tell and just have a, in my courses to my class, go and look at the collection I just put together. And I want you to notice these 3 things or whatever, like having a reason that they go and look at it. But then the thing I really liked too was how you just kind of tied a lot of different things in together that I felt as a professor, I think would be really helpful for me. Take a lot of the, I don't want to say the burden, but you know, the work of pulling things from all over the place and having it all in one place to say to my students, go there, or this assignment pertains to this. And it's like one-stop shopping. So that's what I liked about that. For me, I feel like said it made your workload easier, but I feel like it would make my side as well.
Yeah, not to, jump on the bandwagon, but I think it's a pretty great tool to do just what these guys were commenting. I teach an IB course called Meta Project that always starts off with a deep dive into looking at the archives. And when I know the topic that we're getting into, Jennifer won a lot of this conversation about it. I'll usually say, surprise me, but touch on that area so that the students can be inspired. This presents this vehicle for a customized tour of whatever that area might be. It would never replace Jennifer's surprise me task, but it does create this wonderful tool that I think empowers a faculty member to create a similar experience, a customized experience that looks at an area of his work relevant to whatever project that might be. I really like that ability, and I think that would be really, really useful from a faculty standpoint, because the scope of the Vignelli's work, there's so many sort of pathways that could be specified for a given project scenario. So I really do think, to say the obvious, this could be a really useful tool.
I would just add, I love it too, because it's all contained within the website so that everything is authentic to the Vignelli website. So as opposed to, as faculty, as Kelly was mentioning, like us building our own repositories and then setting them up in this other place and having students go there, it was all contained there so that the students are also, speaking of faculty member in this case, that the students are also interfacing with everything else in the collection so they can be inspired by something else for a completely different class or for whatever context that might be. I did have a question that might be a dumb question. So how is Claire scanning the QR code if the QR code is on her phone?
It's on her desktop and she scans it with her phone.
Got it.
She's on her laptop.
On
Okay,
the mobile view, there's a button.
got
so
it.
She can just go straight to it.
Yeah, so I was trying to think
That's
if
a really
she's
good
on her.
question. Thank
Okay,
you for
Yeah.
asking.
got it.
This is super meta, and I'm just getting excited, but like, it would be cool to archive the conversations that are being had, faculty, students, conversations somehow, and then to have them available to others to see, like, if there was a discourse about the Vignelli mug between, a faculty member and a student, the whole class, that conversation is then accessible to others somehow. Maybe that's too crazy, but
That sounds wonderful and doable, actually. All of the data from what the arrangements that people are making and the conversations that they're having within the site would be part of the Vignelli Center. You would have that.
interesting. Well, I'll tell you, Frank and Claire seem very pleased. I think there was something else I was going to tell you. No, I think we've covered it. Great work.
Thank you, team. You've done a great job.
A couple things. I really like the arrangements and the randomized features. I think those were both really strong because you had talked about, bringing some element of surprise, some serendipity, I think was a term. I can't remember if your team originated it or somebody else, but it's been in the kind of vibe of the class, and I love that. To your point, Julie, about like how you get people inspired to kind of dip into other areas, but without it taking you off track, which was one of the pain points of Google Arts and Culture. I like that in your storytelling, you told a two-part story. So teacher and student, even though we have a student persona in the last project, which we're going to see, your project exemplified like how those things work together, right? It's an ecosystem of users. And this, I think, was a great example of how you bring that together through really strong user-centered storytelling. So well done on that. And the use of AR, VR with a good purpose. And that goes for team one, who also showed a thoughtful use of AR, VR, not just for the sake of cool technology, right? So well done. Okay, last but not least, stand up here. Let me take a picture. Yeah, and be like a mom or something. You're gonna want it for your portfolio. Pick a slide. Yeah. There we go. Here we go, folks. 1, 2, 3. Cheers. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good, somebody joined the Zoom. Yeah. Those yes. Are they there? Oh, he's here. Thanks for coming. Yeah, they have a lost great. Oh, far, great. Yeah, that's the last group. So. It's so safe.
Hi guys, we are Team Shepard. This is our final playback. I'm Penelope. I'm the team and the research lead.
Hi, I'm Harvika. I'm the visual design lead.
I'm Kai. I'm an media lead.
I'm Hannah. I'm the UX design.
So I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but our goal today is to take the insights that we've learned from meeting with our stakeholders and our peers, and really use that to shape a digital experience that brings the Vignelli Center beyond its physical walls. So we're going to go through a research synthesis, and as a scenario we have right now, user needs and a live demonstration. So for our research synthesis, we met with 3 people, firstly Jennifer, and our biggest takeaway was that serendipity is very important in discovery. And this aspect is really something that we tried to incorporate into our prototype moving forward. We also were talking about how everyone has different purpose for looking at an archive and really promoting that sense of like creative exploration, falling into rabbit holes, just kind of looking with nothing particularly in mind, find something unexpected, and also like grouping things together by categories is the deal. Then we met with Javier Viramontes, who is a former RIT professor and now a graphic designer in Brooklyn. And we were talking with him about how greater accessibility is key to Vignelli Center relevant to students are our core users. So having their needs and interests should dictate how the resources are made useful. And we were also talking with him about how process work is really like a vital part of learning about Vignelli's work. And lastly, we met with Marissa, who is an art teacher and ID professor here. And she talked about how the VC is really an asset to encourage thinking on active learning and the importance of technical drawings when it comes to studying designs. So we met with a lot of students and we did our user testing with a bunch of different majors. So they really shaped our target audience from the very beginning. And we put students above all else. So our big idea is to take VC resource to learn from and use it to preserve the legacy that Massimo left RIT, create serendipity, which we learned from Jennifer, meaningfully interactive design, which we learned from Marissa, and create something that is memorable, which we learned from Javier. And then our mood boards, we wanted to take visual identities from the Vignellis and from RIT to make it accessible and recognizable to those who are familiar with RIT or with the Vignellis and those who aren't. So we use the Unigrid system, the Vignelli Red, and Newhouse Grotesque, which is RIT's font.
So now I'm going to show the as-is scenario. So this is what Jennifer's take is on Google Arts and Culture. It's not visually satisfying. It doesn't promote creative exploration in a lot of ways. And it shows only one view at a time without really promoting collection at all. And then this is the RIT Vignelli homepage as it is right now. It is interesting, but it is slow to engage the user and it needs a little bit more call to action. The virtual tour, which is right there, is like really far down at the bottom, but I think personally it's the most interesting thing. And so it could be a bit higher. And events, news, and socials are also at the bottom. Not used. And then the entire page for events is informative, but it's very plain and it's not very engaging. Not a lot of graphics here. It's not visually interesting. The Google Arts and Culture homepage, it's serendipitous, but it really restricts research. There's very little call to action. It's very hard to engage further in any resources. And then the specific artifacts page is informative, but it's isolated. And again, it's research restrictive. It's removed from other context, and there's not really a lot of other materials provided to research it.
So for our user needs, our first user is Alex, and he is a design student at RIT. He's a returning user from the Vignelli. He found them through their social media, and his main goal is to browse the first floor because he's not actively able to visit all the time. So he's looking for a place where he can learn from design works and apply them into projects, and something that he's easily able to navigate.
So this is Alex's user stops. Since he is revisiting the page from previous years, he's rediscovering what the Vignelli has to offer, which then down to exploration, further knowledge, a rabbit hole, collecting, and then ultimately ends with attendance of it. So as you can see, Alex first found the Vignelli Center through Tumblr and has not been here for a while and is now checking out the website, seeing everything, kind of just playing with it. You see him going through the social medias because, as we said earlier, that's how he found it. Lucky for him, is already on the first floor, which is actually the floor that he finds interesting. So we go through kind of the first level, and we see these hotspots, which he then clicks on, finds the New York subway map, and decides. Alex then decides to review more information about the subway by clicking on this expanded view. There's citations, a saving page. He decides to save it to his transportation, which is also already there because he's previously already used this application. Going through all the tags. Ultimately, he decides to again save it and continues on with his journey. He decides to scroll down, and there he sees other things in the Vignelli collection, such as advanced search features, similar collections. In order to feed his need to explore, he decides to go through to the Feeling Lucky page. We'll randomize which floor it takes you to, which ultimately takes him to the second floor. While on the second floor, still goes through an exploration thing, decides to see a chair, and is connected with the first page, and just goes ahead and clicks all around, seeing what he can find, and saves it to his archive. He then goes up into the profile page where which he remembers from previously, looking at the home page, which he then sees a statement talking about different events, which ultimately leads him to want to attend it. So here's some insights from before that we mentioned. Some of his goals were to browse what's on display, learn from influential design works, explore exhibits remotely, and apply the Vignelli's ideas in projects to come. Pain points, as we mentioned from previous Vignelli design, is that there's limited time for in-person visits currently. Hard to find quality online resources and unengaging online resources as well. But through this experience, he found it easy to navigate virtual tours through exhibit info and media and regular updates on events. So good job, Alex. He feels empowered, understood, and ready.
Our second persona is Jordan Carter. Jordan Carter is an industrial design graduate student at the University of Washington. They already know about the Vignellis and they know them through their chair design. And they've been assigned a project based on items in the Vignelli Center. And they need to go to the second floor and find a specific item.
So we're gonna dig deeper into the user journey of Jordan, like how she starts with the discovery and ends with getting involved with the Vignelli Center. So as we say, like this is discovery and exploration. Like Jordan found about the Vignelli Center through her professor, and she's clearly looking for chair design, which technically comes under furniture design or product design. So with the hover feature, we have it right there. So that's how she gets into that in the second. Then there's a 3D isometric view where we are trying to like blend the physical and the virtual museum together. She gets into it and she clicks on the chair. She gets to know more about it. From the features, whatever we have about like that drives her curiosity, which takes her to the further knowledge of, getting into it, citing more. There's also like a shop option there, right? Wherever the products are available. Then further strengthening and connection, our similar collection and explore more feature allows her to get through that. But since her goal is to stick to the chair design, which comes in the furniture, she definitely sticks to that. Moreover, further on, she wants to get into understanding who she can get in contact with the professionals. So that's where she gets the lead staff page. Further down, she knows more about staff, more about the people who are behind the Vignelli, the group, the vision group, the planning group, and further down, she saves Jennifer's email address for the communication, and she gets more inspired and feeling of getting involved. Which further down, she goes and decides to join the Vignelli Student Club and also explore more social media options that she could get. So with Jordan, we understood that she is now feeling more focused with the information that the website has given to her. She's more equipped with the knowledge that it is given. And also she's engaged not with the site, but the archive, but overall the whole experience that we have been providing. Overall, this is how the bird's eye view or the blueprint of our website currently looks. Our goal was to keep it more of a lazy scroll because as a user, we want to get through it in a scroll format. Which is why our entire the key feature of the site is on the homepage itself. Like you start with visiting the collection. That's it. That's where you get through it and then go further down. So yeah, thanks to our star students, these were the ones who actually helped us give more insights on our first and second drafts. And special thanks to our professor Kara, Josh, Jennifer, Kelly, and all of the staff, and also each and every team that's present here, and of course us for doing the project.
Yes, thank you for doing the project.
Concluding forever, if you do it right, it will definitely last forever. And so special thanks to Maswala.
Yes, thank you. Okay, feedback, thoughts, questions?
Well, I want to comment on the interface, the website itself, which was sort of downplayed. Didn't actually see it all that much, but when it came up, I thought, the aesthetics and the typography and the user interface was restrained, elegant, bold, and those are all characteristics of the Vignelli's work. So you didn't really celebrate it, but when it was there, I saw that it was really beautiful. So that's a very hard thing to do well. I just wanted to say good job with that.
Good. Can you pull the prototype up actually in Figma, if you don't mind? I kind of felt the same, a little bit was getting lost in the video, the pre-recorded video, but I wanted to make sure y'all had a chance to kind of see the scroll and some of the features. And I think you have a typography default, sorry. Yeah.
I could see it in some of the other.
Yeah.
images.
Yeah.
We should keep it on this computer, right? Not connectors.
Yeah, for now, because we only have a couple minutes left, I'm sorry. But I like about this project that, you know, the initial prompt was they were meant to design something that would live most likely for the use case of outside the walls of RIT, hence the name of the course.
Right.
But it was nice how, as you went along, and there were some pivots, we did make a distinct decision that, hey, we're missing a key user group here, which is students, and thinking about remote students and also on-campus students. That element of being a experience that could be used as a way of engaging with a collection in person, like as a guided tour, kind of came naturally. And I think that was a really strong outcome of the project. Any other comments?
I agree with kind of what Josh was saying too, like the boldness of it. I really felt that it was very indicative of Vignelli's and, you know, what we see. I really liked the comment you made too, that this wasn't just about the site, but it's about engagement in the whole center itself, which I think for students is really important. You know, we're always saying that, especially as designers, you know, our students don't know a lot about Vignelli's. They don't know a lot about the center unless they go there with a class, right? And kind of giving them this gateway into it and almost like encouraging them to join the club or, you know, get more involved or understand more. I thought that was really well done. I think keeping your audience in mind and that user experience was really strong. So I thought you did a really nice job with that. And I just said, you know, the one thing that stood out to me that I really appreciated was the citations. I hate doing them. And I thought like, oh, I can get it right there. Like, that's perfect. So I thought that was, again, a very thoughtful design. So yeah, and I noticed on your site map too, you had donate, which I think is really important because, you know, it's trying to raise funds and stuff for it. So I thought that was, again, very well thought.
I liked the band of socials along the right. I thought that was really easy to understand. And I really appreciated your use of Italian language in little ways. I think that's just a little zhuzh that makes it really kind of fun. And again, back to Kelly's point about, you know, the user being a student, but like we also teach Italian classes here at RIT. So that little connector of seeing ciao or seeing whatever was on your last slide, you know, those little bits could encourage someone to take Italian language for dinner. You know, so just thinking about like how little elements of the site could impact students, other parts of their journey while they're at RIT. And the other thing, I really like the hotspots, these hotspots, because they're not distracting, but they give you a lot of information and a lot of ways of learning more about what you're seeing.
Yeah, speaking of hotspots, that's what I was going to talk about. Sort of like we do have a kind of walkthrough on our website, you know, like this is much more elevated version of that and much better landing page, right? We don't need to criticize Google or much better place for people to get their more information the way you grouped it and give.
By the way, I love the way you and some of the other groups have integrated the Vignelli Red. We have a really hard time being able to do that because we have to use the RIT orange.
Those things fight. Those
Yeah, they
big
fight
colors.
brutally. So, I don't know, maybe the future will be better, but that current, that's a big challenge for us. We'd love to use red like this.
That's a question I actually wanted to bring up because the students have kind of started to, you know, prototypes that they're putting out there start to beg the question, right? Like, how do you, as a organization within the university, sort of deal with your stakeholders who have certain standards or existing on the rit.edu domain? Like, how would you approach that conversation maybe with a prototype like this? Or
Well,
would you, I guess?
I mean, I don't want to eat up too much, conversation, but I mean, I'm happy to share that it is a real challenge because part of being, you know, a piece of an institution is about consistency. And the brand of RIT is as important as the brand of the Vignale Center. So how do those two things play together? There are a lot of benefits from sharing the systemic approach to communication. Our messaging, our information flow, our news feeds, all those things are seamless, even though they might not feel that way. You know, you can't imagine what the digital ecosystem looked like before the rebrand, because it was more than just recrafting the logo. It was, you know, a total house cleaning of the taxonomy of our IT systems. So the engine that feeds all this is much more holistic and integrated. So I have a lot of respect for that and the desire not to break the system. On the other hand, you know, the Alley Center is a jewel in the crown and has its own very distinct visual language. So it has to be a kind of collaborative approach. I wouldn't want to, you know, divorce from that system, be our own thing, because we would lose the many benefits that we have.
Of course.
Integration.
Yeah.
Just a bummer that orange and red
Yeah,
fight the way
right.
they do, and so it does create some challenges.
They do. Are there any features from this project or even the other three that you saw today that you feel like could be potentially implemented in the website that you have today?
Yes to all of them. I would
Okay.
say.
Yes, potentially.
Okay.
You know, it's sadly it's less about, you know, all the good ideas and more about our ability to implement them.
Right.
We as we've disclosed, we wear a lot of hats. I shave my head so they go on and off easier. But you know, it is we have so many projects and so many agendas, so many hopes and dreams. And, you know, half of my job is trying to figure out ways that we can get more help to do that, while at the same time doing cool projects with all you guys and running around and talking to, you know, high schools. And I was just in Milan with the family because we're working on an exhibit. You know, there's a lot. So yes.
I'm not asking for a commitment, truly. I'm just curious
mean,
about what things.
in short, many of the things that I commented on, I think, are things that were that are things that we can implement, which sure Jennifer feels similarly.
Yeah, no, I think all the work you guys have done, all of the projects sort of making it more like less indoctrinated users. I don't know what the word is. I want people who don't know as much about maybe research or the archives or the Vignales. Like, you've all done an excellent job of thinking of ways to really get them thinking about it, using it. So I think that's really good, because we don't have a lot of resources to do that. You know, there's a certain amount of I think it happens with a lot of collections, museums and archives. I mean, I think we're always struggling with like how we make it more user friendly, because there's a certain amount of assumption that if you're here, you have some knowledge, but or at least some knowledge of collection. But I think we've all taken really great approaches to figuring out how to get these different users in there. and hopefully coming back, like a lot of you talked about that, you know, creating accounts.
I think one of the things that we always have to come back to, and it's a sore spot for us, but it's just reality. You know, that you can't do most any of these things without a catalog digitized collection.
Right.
And we have 750,000 things in that building. We have 7% of it digitized. And that's taken a very long time. So we're not sitting back and smoking cigars and saying, oh, we got 7% done. We are actively trying to figure out ways to do the rest of it. But in a way, nothing's possible until we have all the content in the background.
Right, this class couldn't have happened 10 years ago. Right, it can only happen
because you
done
have
so much work.
an arts and culture page,
Which
right?
isn't, everything isn't enough, but I wish there was more, right, all of that, but this class, you could, because you wouldn't even have people or.
Right.
You wouldn't have had the website such as it is now, it's like a different world now that.
Yeah, for sure.
Before, so.
Yeah, every
But
iteration
yes,
builds
keep-
on
we,
the last.
More, there's always more.
Final comment. Yeah, please, because this is the only team I got to see. I was teaching earlier. I'm sorry, but I'm sure, I mean, I saw your exercise last time. It was great. Again, I like how you satisfied your goals. You said you wanted to be like a breezy walkthrough, you want it to be easy, intuitive, and this is what the interface looks like. I don't like it when websites are too crowded, and there was a lot of the Vignale design elements and pillars that you could have included, but you chose to keep it sleek, just like you said. So the fact that you have the socials up top, but then they don't contradict with or compete with the menu ribbons, which are also about collections, events, very plain, very small in comparison with the most important element and my favorite here, which is taking you to different pages as if you're going through different levels. So level 1, 2, 3. I think that your choice of what to highlight and what to hierarchy also works. You used red and black, but not to the point where they contrast with the white background, which also allowed it to be breezy and easy and more visually pleasing for people who are visually impaired. So all these tiny elements are what makes it really cohesive and nice, but not in your face. Just great work.
Really nice work. Thank you, team.
Great. Yeah.
Okay, can I just thank everybody? for
Yes, you can.
Fantastic
Please.
work. This is
Get up
such a pleasure to see.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, hang on, let me take a picture of them really quick, and then I want to hear your team come in. Come in. 2 and 2, thank you. Ready? 2, 3, cheers. Right. Yes, sorry, Josh.
No problem. I just really want to say how valuable this kind of exercise is for us, because it keeps us thinking about what the future could hold. And in some cases, the present, but mostly the future.
Yeah.
And I hope that in your sort of deep dive into the archives and the Vignale's work, that you learned a bit about what the value of their work could be to your own experience in design and planning and overall project work as a student. I hope that, when you come back in the future, we'll be further along with our work, but we're encouraged by your optimism, your ideas about the relevance of Vignale content. I want to invite all of you to an event in New York City. I know that might be tricky for some of you, but in the event that you can get there on the 17th of May during New York City's Design Week, we will be partnering with the Vignale Church, St. Peter's. Who was it that interviewed Jared?
Yeah.
A couple of you know Jared. So Jared has been a great partner, and he and I will be co-hosting the event, which will center around photography by a former RIT student who was here when we acquired the jewelry that Lela designed, and had a fascinating project where she wanted to test the timelessness of Lela's designs by testing our evolving ideas of beauty. And so she did a really fascinating group of photographic works, which are now in the church and waiting for us to celebrate her and them. That will happen, as I said, on the 17th. We'll have a party. We had a party there last year around some other photographs, and it was so inspiring to see so much of the Vignelli, what I call the Vignelli diaspora, show up. These are people that worked for the Vignellis, people who have been inspired by the Vignellis. Lots of our IT students who have studied in the Vignelli archives showed up. So it ends up being this like super cool networking opportunity for you all. And you can have a drink and look at cool Vignelli inspired stuff. I was in Milan last week and I met with the folks who run the company, San Lorenzo, who manufacture Bella's designs. And they gave me access to all kinds of great process materials, which we're scanning. We're going to print out. So in addition to the photographs, you'll see the story of Lela's work, Lela and Massimo, but mostly Lela's jewelry work and some of the other items. So it'll be a celebration in part of Lela's role, kind of elevating that a bit more than Massimo's in this case. And just a fun time. So come to Design Week and come to that. We haven't advertised it yet on the website, but we will be in the next 2 weeks. So look out for it there for the details. So come join us if you can. And thanks again for an awesome project. Thanks to Kara for putting together this terrific class, and to all my wonderful colleagues for participating here. Varied ways that you all do. So this is great.
Well, thank you. We could not have done this class without your support and all the work that has come, years in the making. So thank you, Josh, Jennifer, thank you, Kelly, for supporting the Muse departments. Thank you so much. We had a good time. We linked our classes informally, and I thought it was very productive, nice exchange of feedback and synergy. So thank you, appreciate it. This has been recorded and we have their applicable prototypes available in Figma. If you should need to access these assets for, achieve your goals, please don't hesitate to reach out. Okay, great. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Class, just stick around for a couple minutes. Yeah. Thank you. Could I tap the link? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Julie, did I get your paper? You may have it? I am, yeah, I can do additional. Yeah, if you want. No problem. I will send you something. Thank you. I'll take this. I put my name on it. Thank you, dear. Thank you for sticking around. I know you're not. That's okay. Once everything's done, let's do it. Okay.
Thanks again, Kara. This was amazing.
It's awesome. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's really a pleasure. We appreciate the support. I'll reach out to Jim also, say the same, because he, he played a big role in the sponsoring and.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he is awesome. Maybe we could grab a coffee sometime.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to.
Yeah. We have some call. Let me check. My husband might be.
You're fine.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Right. I'm so low. I've been with this.
I didn't. About one. It looks like we got about 5. I got all those times too, but ultimately was like my go-to word. I can tell you're
I think